Beehive Peak. There's the sign that says Beehive Peak. That is Beehive Peak right there, where Juan Valdez tried to sell his coffee. So yeah, his heart was broken. The Mormons didn't want his coffee. But then he just repackaged it and called it hot cocoa, caffeinated hot cocoa, and they sucked that thing up, man. They drank it like crazy. Look, I mean, good grief, that guy, every hill over here is covered, and they grew coffee beans here. If you look, Juan Valdez carved all these terraces growing coffee beans. The inspiration he used is Beehive Peak, which is right there behind you. He worked there with his eye single to the glory of the beehive, and they rejected it. It's terrible. Looking at the beehive, knowing that his Colombian beans can make the beehive buzz with activity. We're standing here at the top of Bean Canyon. If you see that sign over there, this canyon is Bean Canyon. This is the canyon that linked where Juan Valdez farmed coffee beans up here in the mountains. You can see all the terraces that he cut while worshiping the beehive down there. Everything that Juan Valdez did was to benefit the beehive. All right? So Juan Valdez was up here making all of his coffee beans, and he's like, he just knew that his coffee beans would make that beehive buzz with energy. And so when he got all of his coffee beans gathered up, he went down to the beehive to sell his coffee beans to the members of the beehive. Come to find out, the beehive didn't drink coffee. They thought coffee was bad. This broke poor Juan Valdez. His whole life had been spent up here farming these hills to make coffee beans for the beehive that they didn't want. So Juan Valdez came back up to the mountains, almost at the end of Coffee Peak Road. The road ends at Coffee Peak. This is where Juan Valdez lived his life. But when he got upset after the beehive rejected his coffee, he came up here and built a cabin down in a little canyon. So he retired with his donkey up here. So he was an ogre and his donkey living in a little swamp down, a little swamp meadow thing. They called it Ogre Canyon, which is 5 miles. So there's a sign here that says Pioneer Canyon now, but it used to be Ogre Canyon. But the Paiute Trail System, when they wanted to market this and get people to come for tourism, they thought that Ogre Canyon was too scary, so they changed it to Pioneer Canyon. I know the real story, and you're not gonna hear this history anywhere else. So we're gonna go on up here. We're gonna see where the ogre, Juan Valdez, and his trusty donkey retired. We're gonna go to the end of Coffee Peak, and we'll talk a little bit more about the beehive. Man, the wind is really blowing, but this is an important part of the story of Juan Valdez, the coffee farmer, and Swervin Erv Olson from Monroe. We did a story on him last week. But Erv would come from over there, Monroe, come up here and meet Juan Valdez under this twisted pinyon tree, and that's where they would do their trade. And so Erv would go back and he could work, he could pull logs off the mountain for a week straight without taking a break. And the rumor is that like when he ran out of juice, he crashed. And that's what ended Erv. But Erv actually smuggled Juan Valdez's coffee beans past the beehives. Erv Olson had to come smuggle the coffee beans past the Beehive Society to get down to the degenerates in Monroe. And you know what? We know that Juan Valdez was here because he did bring his corona with him, not the coronavirus. Let's get off this windy point. We got to get up and see where Juan Valdez retired. And we're going to Coffee Peak, or the road end 12 miles up. There's so much of this old history that's just been forgotten, and it's just, if we don't document this and put it up on YouTube, these stories are lost forever. I sure as hell won't remember it after today. People got a camp trailer up here. Look at these terraces that Juan Valdez carved. I mean, only Juan Valdez did this. Look at how beautiful this whole canyon is, though. This is spectacular. Aspen and pines. Yeah, there's a camper up here. We gotta get up here to Jack's Peak. remember what I read about Jack's Peak. There was a Mormon kid named Jack, and he grew up in the Beehive, and his whole life he was told that coffee was bad, and that, you know, don't even look towards Coffee Peak. If you look, you'll get hooked, and it's, you know, don't even look at what's over there. It's kind of like the Lion King and Simba and the King, when it's like, what's that dark area over there? And no, don't go over there. You can't go there. That's not a place to go. Well, that's kind of like what they told Jack, the little Mormon kid. The Mormon kid named Jack grew up believing that coffee was terrible and that Coffee Peak would lead him to damnation. Well, one day that Jack was walking up the road and Swervin Erv came flying down Main Street of, like, I think it's Richfield, on his way back to his hometown in Monroe. Man, look at the terraces up here. I mean, he farmed this whole damn hillside. Side by side. Howdy. So there was this Mormon kid named Jack, okay? And he lived down there in Richfield, just right down there in between here and Erv's hometown. Well, one day Jack was coming home from a beehive activity, or activity looking for beehives or something, I don't know. But anyway, he was coming back, and old Swervin Erv come flying through with his wagon train. And Swervin Erv, as he swerved, one of Juan Valdez's finest coffee beans fell at the foot of Jack. So Jack looked at the coffee bean and didn't know what it was, but he was mystified by its appearance. When he felt it, he felt sharp and focused. So, in a moment of weakness, Jack the Mormon Kid ate the coffee bean that fell off of Swervin Erv's wagon down there in Richfield. Something magical snapped within Jack, and he became hyper-focused, extremely smart, talented, athletic, energetic. He looked healthy. And he never would drink these sugary drinks from like Swig or Fizz or anything. He just had this natural energy that he harnessed, and it made him feel great. Whoa, truck. But yeah, so one more here. Buddy. Partner. He's a Cowboys fan. Alright. So anyway, Jack, like, he goes, holy crap, like, he was energetic, he's doing so good. Everyone loved him because he just stood out in everything he did. But he had this secret that he had this Juan Valdez's coffee bean, but he still maintained the image. Outwardly, he was the perfect person. He did everything right. But on the inside, he had this secret. He would drink some of Juan Valdez's coffee. When it became known that he drank coffee and it kind of got out, then someone that appears on the outward side to be Mormon, but like not totally Mormon, is a Jack Mormon. The Jack Mormon comes from Jack the Mormon Kid in Richfield that got corrupted by Juan Valdez's coffee beans, which ties to Swervin Erv Olson that we talked about in Monroe. It's all linked together, Shark. And up here, I'll show you Jack's Peak.